absolute last thing that you need when someone who you love dies is a battle with a bureaucracy. But that's exactly what countless grieving New Mexico families are running into. Tonight on Special Assignment, Matt Grubbs investigates the plight of an Albuquerque father who has been trying for months now to get answers about the death of his son.
He and I were buddies. You know, what else can I say?
Ed Chavez was fortunate enough to call his son Marty,
I enjoy sports, very bright.
his friend.
Sometimes we'd sit in the back room and he'd start talking to me about the universe and the solar system, and then he'd look at me and he said, "Dad, let's talk about something else. You don't understand what I'm saying."
It was in that back room of Chavez's home where he last saw Marty alive, February 11th.
Got home from work. He was sitting there, and I sat down here and talked to him for about half an hour and had a good conversation.
Marty Chavez was recovering from hip surgery, an injury Ed says that had plagued him since taking karate as a child. He was now 38. Marty complained of sore lungs, Ed says, and thought he might have the flu.
I asked him if he wanted to go to the emergency room, and he said, "No, I'm going to see what happens." I said, "Okay."
When Ed returned from a quick nap, Marty was dead.
I sit here and wonder, what did he die of? And I want to know.
But 5 months later, Chavez still did not have a death certificate.
And you know, he had medical bills and he had other bills, and they want a copy of the death certificate too, so they'll stop bothering. And
When someone passes away, it's surprising and even overwhelming the amount of stuff that depends on having a certificate of death. Finishing out a car loan or lease, closing a bank account, life insurance, it all requires a certificate of death. But for the past 5 months, the only thing Ed has had says pending on it. And the reason is because of the relationship between two state agencies that share this building.
the way I look at it, if they're doing this to me, they're doing it to everybody.
The holdup for Marty Chavez's death certificate is a toxicology report. Because the cause of his death wasn't obvious, medical investigators ordered a complete toxicology workup 2 days after Chavez passed away. That's the job of the state's scientific laboratory division.
We take this very seriously. We know that there are people connected, there's families associated with each sample.
At the state's scientific lab, blood, urine, and tissue samples are screened for a host of drugs, both legal and not. Up until last year, the lab almost always finished that job within 8 weeks. But in January of 2013, the Office of the Medical Investigator, or OMI, stopped paying for a private lab to do toxicology work and began sending cases to the state's scientific laboratory.
We've had this kind of conversation with OMI many times in the past.
OMI did give the lab a heads up, but the lab director says talk of a gradual increase in caseload didn't equal the reality of what was to come.
So the increase of everything coming over to us was not anticipated by us.
Total cases handled by the lab have doubled. Comprehensive screens, the painstaking tests needed in Marty Chavez's case, are more than 10 times what they used to be. Within 7 months, the lab was hopelessly backlogged.
We've had people come in 5 weeks at a time on weekends. We've had people working 6 days weeks for over a month at a time.
David Mills says some staffers quit because of the workload. OMI wouldn't sit down for an interview on the backlog or on the Chavez case. A spokesman told us that OMI sees this as a vendor issue. If vendors, and in this case that's the lab, don't meet their obligations, then OMI can't meet its goal of a 90-day turnaround for death certificates. OMI has no plans to request toxicology tests from any lab other than the state's, and neither agency says it is willing to press for faster results at the expense of accuracy. The lab saw trouble coming and asked lawmakers to help expand the staff. 3 new people have started in the toxicology lab, and there is money for 4 more. The lab hopes to have its backlog eliminated this fall. And the test Ed's been waiting on?
Every time I come down here, I keep thinking about him.
It's done. Ed Chavez has his answers, which he's chosen to keep private. He'll soon have that death certificate.
It bothers me to look into that room where he passed away, you know, because I can just see him lying there. But I do miss him.
On special assignment, Matt Grubbs, KRQE News 13.
You can learn more about our investigation online at krqe.com. We take a closer look there at the delay in returning toxicology results. We also have links about how to get a death certificate and why you often need many of them when someone you love dies.